I received a physical copy of an article from somebody, and I found it online. I'm going to show this to you. We're talking here about the Middlesbrough Diocesan Catholic Voice. It's their diocesan newspaper. This is out of the United Kingdom. And they posted, well, they're having a talent show. Big deal, right? Well, they've had these for years in an off-site from the cathedral location. But they decided it'd be cheaper to run it at their cathedral. So what you're seeing here is a picture from last year where the indie legend John Bramwell, well, I don't listen to indie rock, so I don't know who this is, but he was there last year performing his show, and he called it like one of his most important ones ever. Okay, well, here's the thing. Right behind him is the altar, and then there's the crucifix, and behind them is a piece of secular artwork, but behind that is their tabernacle. This is actually the sanctuary. This is where the holy sacrifice of the Mass is offered. This is infinitely worse than what Father Mike Schmitz did. He made a silly video in a momentary lapse of judgment, perhaps egged on for it or prodded onto it by a personal assistant, somebody who helps from the social media team. I don't know. This is infinitely worse. The headline from their diocesan newspaper is "Triumphant Return for Rocking in the Aisles." Yes, and they'll be in the aisles because they will actually have this happening in the cathedral where the Mass is offered, not in a gathering space, not in where Holy Donut Hour happens after Mass. None of those kind of places. Not in the, if there's an attached school, not in one of their rooms or in the gym there. Any other place that would be on parish property that would be fine for something like this. This is where the holy sacrifice of the Mass takes place. This happened there last year. Before that, I don't think they've been reconsecrated. Here's the details. Previous productions filled Middlesbrough Theatre as clergy and parishioners came together to showcase their talents. Now, after a lengthy break, the hugely successful show is back with another show-stopping program of music, laughter, and dance, with a change of venue to St. Mary's Cathedral. A cast of local talent from across the parishes of Middlesbrough and beyond comes together to entertain you and raise a few quid along the way. Stars of the show include Legacy, Deacon Tom Rolfe, the Chancey Brothers, which is Father Pat Keogh and Canon Edith Gubbins, Spotlight Performing Arts, Canon Michael Laughlin, Marianne Dorgan, and making his Rita debut, Father Stephen Lytle. Again, I don't care that these are priests and deacons and potentially religious who have a talent for music and who are making music and even performing it publicly. It's the problem here is that they've turned the holy space into something for non-holy purposes. We have forgotten the meaning of the word holy. That holy means setting things apart for God. You might be guilty of this in your own life, where you allow yourself to be distracted by things during prayer time. It happens more than you might think. We're all guilty of this to a degree, so let's not be hypocrites about this. But I think this is worse. This is the use of the holy sacrifice of the Mass, at least space set aside for that purpose alone, for the right worship of God, to popular music. That's kind of a problem. Here's what the cathedral dean, the canon there, Paul Ferrer, said. The return of Rocking in the Aisles marks an exciting new chapter for the cathedral's entertainment offerings. Our aim is to welcome more than 500 people, making the most of the larger spaces the cathedral offers. Tickets are already selling fast for what's sure to be an unforgettable evening. This started Friday, October 3rd. Went yesterday. And it's going to pick up again. I think it goes today as well after Mass. And it picks up again this coming weekend. They're talking about all sorts of DJs and popular music and all kinds of things. And, my wife did a little digging on this and she found a lot of pictures of past events. This is kind of a problem there. We have lost sight of what is holy. But not everybody has. So we have a letter here that was published by Rorate Chaley. And it's a letter from a priest who has to remain anonymous to Catholics in Charlotte, North Carolina, telling them about how to basically weather the storm of a new, relatively young bishop who is hostile to tradition. We're going to end this today with this letter. Published by Rorate Chaley, you can find it on their website. A letter from a priest of Jesus Christ to the faithful of the Diocese of Charlotte. A house built on the sand of deceit cannot endure the buffeting winds of truth. A faithful priest who must remain anonymous has sent this letter to the faithful of the Diocese of Charlotte, North Carolina, who are attached to the traditional Latin Mass. Dear TLM faithful of the Diocese of Charlotte, you may not know me, but I am well acquainted with your diocese and the challenges you face, as I regularly speak with your priests and many among your community. I'm a priest in good standing, and though I would prefer to sign this letter openly, the current climate in the Church, though hopefully fading, requires me to remain anonymous for prudence's sake. As you embark on your liturgical exile this week, I am reminded of the letter the prophet Jeremiah sent to the Jewish exiles in Babylon as they adjusted to their new reality, far from the liturgical home. See Jeremiah 29. Though I lack the prophetic charism, I feel moved to offer you this unsolicited message of encouragement. First, unlike the people of Jerusalem before their exile, you have committed no sin. Your devotion to the traditional Mass, which has sanctified the Church and countless saints across centuries, remains both legitimate and praiseworthy. As Pope Benedict wrote, what earlier generations held as sacred remains sacred and great for us too, and cannot be all of a sudden entirely forbidden or even considered harmful. Moreover, thanks to Diane Montagne's reporting, we know that the rationale for restricting the traditional Mass and Traditionis Custodes was based on falsified survey results from the world's bishops. Take heart. A house built on the sand of deceit cannot endure the buffeting winds of truth. The overly needlessly harsh enforcement of Traditionis Custodes by your bishop is simply baffling. The world knows your priests advocated for a more compassionate and pastoral approach, yet their pleas went unheard. While the FSSP and Institute of Christ the King Sovereign Priest continue to expand into other dioceses, Bishop Martin declined such an invitation. While other dioceses received extensions from Rome, Bishop Martin would not request one. And though other bishops have provided multiple Mass locations, Bishop Martin, overseeing a diocese spanning nearly 5 hours by car, refused to do so. Even more striking, Bishop Martin's letter, read by your 4 pastors last Sunday, admitted, "The designated chapel was never intended to meet your pastoral needs." Quoting it directly. Understand that the chapel is not meant to accommodate all who currently attend the TLM in their parishes, he wrote, suggesting you view it as a shrine chapel you might visit occasionally. Traditionis Custodes demands no such thing. This level of severity almost rivals Bishop Martin's initial plan to cut the permissions short and begin the Mooresville Mass in a gym in July before renovations were even complete. Public outcry forced the bishop to change his plan on the timing. I encourage you to continue to make your pastoral needs known, especially in light of Martin's stunning admission that he never intended to provide for them. Returning to Jeremiah, we recall the prophet's advice to exiles to prepare for a long stay. Your exile will be long. Build houses and live in them. Plant gardens and eat their produce. See Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 28. Without claiming prophetic insight, I urge the opposite. Don't unpack. The injustice and harshness you face cannot persist. It is noteworthy that as you're confined to your liturgical reservation, the TLM visibly returns to St. Peter's Basilica in Rome for the first time since the unhappy year of 2021 and Traditionis Custodes. Soon the world will witness an even more prominent Mass there, celebrated by Cardinal Burke during the Summorum Pontificum pilgrimage. These events surely have the Holy Father's approval. Additionally, Pope Leo's recent Crux interview hinted at forthcoming dialogue with those devoted to the traditional Latin Mass. These developments offer hope for a softening of restrictions from the Vatican. Like Jeremiah, who urged the exiles to pray for the city of their captivity, I encourage you to pray for Bishop Martin, who has forced you from your parishes and imposed this liturgical exile. As a Franciscan, pray that he discerns the difference between the obedience expected in a diocese and that of a religious order. Having served as a pastor for mere months throughout his decades of priesthood, pray that he grows in pastoral care and understands the harm caused by a my will is law approach. And though it may sound sharp, I say the following with charity. Based on what I have heard and read, both publicly and privately, Bishop Martin seems unwell. His evident need for constant attention, absolute control over others, to the point of prohibiting silent vesting prayers, suggests something deeply unsettled and a need for healing. Pray for him, bear your exile and the sufferings therein with patience. Offer these sufferings as a sacrifice and trust that your return is near. Through your stripes, you can help mend these liturgical wounds. Return follows exile. Renewal follows persecution. Restoration follows destruction. For behold, days are coming, says the Lord, when I will restore the fortunes of my people, and I will bring them back to the land which I gave to their fathers, and they shall take possession of it. See Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 3. And those are, I think, a good counterpoint to everything else we talked about today. But we have lost a sort of a sense of what is holy, and I think all of us have to a certain degree. There are things set apart for God. Let me know what you think of this in the comments, please. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help. Share this on social media. That helps a lot, too. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, pray for the church, because church needs it these days. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.